First to kick us off in the 4 o'clock hour. Hello, Pete. How are you? Hello, Pete.
Go again.
Pete, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, go right ahead.
Kevin?
Yes.
Hey, this is Pete from Pennsylvania. I called you last year. I just wanted to call you really personally and thank you for everything you're doing with John Ziegler out in L.A. on Joe Paterno. And I don't know anything about the Steubenville case. I just wanted to thank you for everything you've done.
Oh, that's awfully nice, Pete. You just made my day. Trust me.
You have no idea. I feel like we're all in our own little part of the country. I mean, I'm not a Joe bot. I'm not an alum. I'm not a season ticket holder. But it's just crazy what's gone on with the way people have just, taken down Joe. And it's just nice to see people like me that just care about the truth, like you and John and others. And I just really wanted to call you and thank you for putting him on. He always has a tweet when he's going to be on, and then, people record it and we get to listen to it as a podcast before it works. So it works. People listen to you. Someday maybe we can all have a meeting or a party somewhere, but it's just really, I just want you to know that there's, you're making a connection with people, somebody like me, and there's others that really, rely on you, even though I've never been to St. Louis in my life. I just want you to know that I appreciate it, even if I can't speak for Scott or Jay, or you just wonder what goes through their minds, right?
Yeah, and I think Scott is the one, but Jay has been very kind to me, and Scott, and I know Scott and John Ziegler have had their real strong run-ins, and there's a real dilemma there. I don't understand it, because when I was there and I was at the Paterno family's home and met Sue Paterno and Jay, they couldn't have been kinder. So I don't know what Scott's deal is. I think it always comes down to what we always believe it comes down to: ego. And if it's not ego, then it's money. And in this case, we know it's not money, so it's got to be ego.
Well, you and John have both taught me lessons about how ego really influences the media, and I mean that. I was for 20 days in November of 2011. I fell for it. I was hanging on every word of Colin Cowherd and people like that. So I've come a long way, and you're one of the reasons. And I'm sure if I went through it, others did as well. But I just wanted to call you and share that with you.
Well, I can't tell you, Pete, how much that means to me, and I mean that. And you're calling it just the right time, because that just means the world to me. And you made my Christmas. And trust me, I don't do it for any reason other than what's happened is wrong. I have no horse in the race. I didn't go to Penn State. I don't have any family or friends who've gone to Penn State. I just feel that when I saw what took place, when I read that free report, it's wrong. And people need to understand when it's wrong and have it shoved down their throats by a media that is asleep at the switch, that does zero homework of their own. Zero homework of their own. They don't even read the damn report, and then they pontificate on how bad Joe Paterno all of a sudden was. Don't know where that came from, and how bad Penn State is. And it blew me away when I read that report and realized the truth.
It's amazing. It's great to hear. You say that all the time on the radio, and I try to listen to you on your, through the web when I can. And once again, thanks. Thanks so much for what you do, and because thank goodness for the web that we can find people like you, that I'll be able to hear you. It's great.
Yeah, it is. It is great, because otherwise, where would the message get put out? We get the message from the powerhouse ESPN, but their message is wrong. It's full of lies. It's full of propaganda, and they're in bed with the NCAA. And so the disgrace that is ESPN and the power that it has really run roughshod over this country. And I'm appalled at a media that I grew up respecting. That's why I originally got into it. But the giants of this industry, the Mike Wallaces, the Walter Cronkites, the Eric Severides, the John Chancellors, the Huntleys, the Brinkleys, would roll over in their graves watching what passes for a media empire, ESPN, pontificate on what they believe is news as if it were reporting. They're not reporting anything. They're simply parroting what they've been hand-fed.
Yep, you said that, and I understand that now. I did not know that 25 months ago, but I know that now, and you'd be amazed when I ride around in my car. I've got little cassette tapes of you and John, and just listening to you guys, just really soaking it all in, and it makes a difference. It really has helped me understand the reality, and not, like you said, how the media just twists everything and for their agenda and their advertisers, and what
you bet.
And selling.
And don't ever doubt,
Pete. I'll let you go.
All right, thank you, Pete.
Thank you. Keep it up, and I'll keep in touch with you. But I just wanted to call you. Okay.
Thank you much, Pete. I greatly appreciate that. It's very touching.
Take care. Thank
you. Betcha. Have Merry Christmas to you.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Wow. That's touching. I got to tell you. A lot of hard work John and I have done in getting to the truth. And I think we've arrived at the truth. I think we know the truth. I think we put the truth out there for people to look at. Do we know exactly what happened? No. But we know what didn't happen. We know that in the Penn State situation, Joe Paterno had nothing to do with any sort of a cover-up, had nothing to do with anything that was contrived by ESPN or Louis Freeh. All of the evidence, all of the facts tell you that. There's not one morsel of evidence that suggests otherwise. And to come up with what Freeh came up with is despicable. Louis Freeh, the former head of the FBI, belongs in jail for the lives and reputations that he's trashed without one morsel of evidence. He belongs in jail. He's a slime ball. And we found out how the FBI worked under him. So we know. What we really know and what we ought to have is a report on him, not a report on Penn State. We know what happened or what didn't happen at Penn State according to his novel that he wrote. There was nothing true about it, except that he wrote it. He put it together. I guess that's the only true thing. And took about $8 million for his labors. Wouldn't you love that gig? That's better than being the game CEO for the Super Bowl. Let me write a fictional report about Jerry Sandusky's shenanigans, and I'll get about $8 million for it. I'll hand it out to the idiots in the media, knowing that they're idiots ahead of time, and that they'll run with it without even reading it. They'll simply write what I summarize for them and hand feed them, spoon feed them, like the little baby nincompoops that they are. And that is what they are. But Louis Freeh's a disgrace to America as far as I'm concerned. He's a disgrace as an FBI head, and he's a disgrace for what he's done to Penn State and Joe Paterno's reputation.